For our author study, we chose to explore Faith Reingold's texts because we felt that students can learn a lot about African American culture through her works. For my mini lesson, I chose the text Aunt Harriet's Underground Railroad in the Sky. Through this text, the students will be able to use the skill of visualization and making mental images to comprehend the historical context of this book. In Aunt Harriet's Underground Railroad in the Sky, young Cassie Louise Lightfoot, who soared above New York City rooftops in the Caldecott Honor book, Tar Beach, which was used in Jessica's mini lesson, returns for an imaginative historical adventure. Cassie and her brother Bebe are on another fanciful flight when they encounter the mysterious train and a woman in a conductor's uniform who turns out to be Harriet Tubman. Tubman sends the two children on separate recreations of a journey from slavery to freedom. As Cassie makes her way through the North, she relies on Harriet Tubman's advice to stay safe and take comfort in the notes from Bebe, who is always one step ahead of her. I chose to use Aunt Harriet's Underground Railroad in the Sky because it is full of beautiful and colorful illustrations that accurately depict scenes from the past. Students will be able to use this text to sketch the visualizations or the mental images they create in order to aid in their comprehension. The students will compare their illustrations against Reingold's illustrations in order to enhance their comprehension of the themes presented in the text. Using this text in conjunction with my group's chosen texts allows my students to make historical connections through each of Reingold's books and allows them to compare her common visuals. The main objectives of this lesson are for students to become more familiar with the strategy of visualization or creating mental images and how visualizing and making mental images can increase your understanding and comprehension of the text. Through the artistic skill of sketching, the students will be able to have a better grasp and interpret the text. Why is it important to create mental images? In order to improve student comprehension during reading, students should be able to create images about what they are reading. Creating images in your mind is what you do when you form pictures while you are reading. It's important that we develop these pictures in our heads while we read. If we do this, then we're more likely to remember what we read. Silent reading is a great time to practice this creating imaging skill. When we read silently, we can read through the parts that we know may not be as important as others and slow down at the important parts of the text. It's important for students to understand that they don't need pictures from an illustrator to enjoy a text. Pictures in elementary books help students gain background knowledge for future use, and our students need to learn that it can be really exciting to read books that don't have any pictures in it because you can imagine anything you want and not depend on the illustrator to tell you what it's supposed to look like. There are many times that I've read a book, and I'm sure you feel the same way. You read a book, you go to see the movie, images don't match up. I'm usually very disappointed because the images that I made in my head from when I read the book are much better than the visuals that I received from the movie. So using this technique will help students implant the importance of the information that they read. Here are two examples of anchor charts or posters that could be placed around the classroom. First one we see is the importance of using our senses in order to help us create images in our mind. Second poster on the right is really talking about mental images. Take a picture, you use your senses. You use these pictures to help make what you're reading more personal. Then we have that great word schema, really helps us create our images. And the best part about visualization or creating mental images is that not everyone's mental image is going to be the same because our schema is different, our background knowledge is different, our prior knowledge is different. Okay, how do we create mental images? Good readers create mental images while they're reading or listening to a story. They are prompted to create images based on their background knowledge, their prior knowledge, and the author's words in order to create a visual picture in their mind. So here's a great example. The chilly weather settles into your bones. The mental picture I created was this man, very cold, freezing. The beautiful butterflies titter around the light grassy areas. So here in my mind, I pictured butterflies dancing around in some green fields. Okay. For this example, which would be my teacher example, it was based on a book that we have already read in class called A Bad Case of Stripes. The text example I chose to use was when Camilla looked into the mirror and saw herself. The author describes her looking like a rainbow. Okay, as I explain my model to the class, I would say, you can tell from my mental image, I colored my picture with different colors. I chose the colors of the rainbow because in the text, the author used the word rainbow to describe how Camilla looked. I know what a rainbow looks like, so I know what Camilla would look like. Okay, this is what she looks like in my mind. Hopefully, this model would help students to recognize the words that the author uses, plus my schema, my background knowledge, my prior knowledge, what I already know about rainbows, in order to create my mental image. For during reading activities, the students will have a chart with 2 boxes. On the left side, the box will tell the student what stopping point we are on with the passage so they could read along while I'm reading. I chose to include the text at the stopping point so that students can read along and make meaningful mental connections and really create a good image. I also included it because it also works towards differentiating the lesson for some lower level students or maybe some students with some special needs. Then on the right hand side, the students will have a space to draw a picture. The students will be given just a few minutes to just sketch the image that comes to their mind. Okay, we have our first stopping point, our second stopping point with a box to create a mental image. Okay, I did include the passage for all 3 stopping points. I feel it's important that they could read along with me. Also helps to differentiate for some of our more needy students. Okay, for their independent activity, students are still going to sketch. They will be asked to create images. Create an image that describes what they feel the theme is in the text. Since each student's background, schema, their prior knowledge, all of that is different, their sketches of the theme will be slightly different. The students will then think, pair, share with their neighbor. While they are think, pair, and sharing, getting with their neighbors, I will be throwing out some things that says you should be focused on what you believe the theme is, what the specific parts of your drawing, what do they portray, how does that support the theme, okay? And remind them that they should be comparing and contrasting their drawings and discussing really why they're different. Asking each other, hey, why did you include that train? Why did you include that picture of Harriet Tubman? Why did you include these things? Because it all comes back to their schema. What mental images, what background knowledge do they have that help them create this picture? After the students think, pair, share with a neighbor, we'll come together as one whole group, discuss the different things that we saw, similarities, differences, why these things are different, what background knowledge helped them, why our background knowledge is different. Okay, really go into a brief conversation about how we can see things differently or we create different mental pictures. And I would know that this lesson was successful based on their drawings and the conversations they have with their partners. Okay, if the students drew anything relevant to the stopping points, if the students were successful in listening to the author's words and developing an appropriate and a logical drawing based on those words, and really just the end text drawing would hopefully depict the theme of freedom or courage and or peace. And if the students produced a final picture that depicts one of those themes, or they could explain to me that it expressed freedom, the theme of freedom or courage, then I would know that the visualization lesson was successful. Okay, and thank you for taking the time to listen to my mini lesson description and how I would implement it into my classroom.